These are some of the alleged gang members that the Trump administration deported to El Salvador this weekend. Just hours earlier, a federal judge ordered they be returned to the United States, rather than held in a notorious El Salvadoran prison with a track record of human rights abuses. Their deportations came less than 24 hours after Donald Trump became the first president since World War II to invoke the Alien Enemies Act, a centuries-old law that allows the rapid deportation of non-citizens with little to no due process.
I can tell you this, these were bad people. That was a bad group of, as I say, hombres.
But many of the deported men lack criminal records in the United States, according to ICE, and the families of some of the men have told ABC News that their loved ones, who they fear have been deported to El Salvador, have never been associated with the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua or any other criminal organization.
Ver que él no tiene récord, él no tiene nada, él nunca ha fachado nada, ni multa, ni infracción, absolutamente nada.
Sources told ABC News that the Trump administration made a calculated decision to ignore a judge's directive to turn around 2 flights containing alleged members of Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. Their decision to ignore the ruling followed a chaotic 24 hours when the Trump administration raced to deport them before a federal judge could stop them. Here's what we know so far. On Friday, March 14th, Trump signed a proclamation invoking the Alien Enemies Act, arguing that Tren de Aragua is a hybrid criminal state invading the United States. The proclamation was not announced until the next day. At 2 a.m. on Saturday, March 15th, 5 Venezuelan men represented by the American Civil Liberties Union and the Democracy Forward Foundation sued the Trump administration to prevent their imminent removals. Less than 10 hours after the lawsuit was filed, U.S. District Judge James Boasberg issued a temporary restraining order blocking the deportation of the 5 men. He set an emergency hearing at 5 p.m. that afternoon. Around 3:30 p.m., 2 buses allegedly carrying migrants depart the El Valle detention center in Raymondville, Texas. Jaime Diaz, a local immigration attorney, captures this video showing one of the buses departing the detention center. The White House issued a press release at 3:51 p.m. The proclamation marked the 4th time a president has ever invoked the law and the first time it's ever been used against a non-state actor.
The administration is claiming that courts can't review anything of what they're doing.
At 5 p.m., Judge Boasberg began an emergency hearing to consider extending his temporary restraining order to cover any non-citizen covered by Trump's proclamation. About 20 minutes later, he called a break in the hearing so lawyers with the Department of Justice could confirm whether the Trump administration is actively deporting non-citizens under the proclamation. Boasberg also said he was considering blocking any deportations of non-citizens under the proclamation. During the break at 5:25 p.m., the first flight carrying some alleged gang members departed Harlingen, Texas, en route to Honduras. 20 minutes later, the second flight carrying alleged gang members departed as well. Approximately an hour after those flights departed at 6:44 p.m., Judge Boasberg said he would issue a temporary restraining order blocking the deportation of any non-citizens subject to Trump's proclamation. The judge also ordered the Department of Justice to inform their clients that those 2 flights carrying non-citizens need to be turned around immediately and returned to the United States.
They needed to be brought back, and the judge absolutely had authority to do that.
Despite the order to turn the flights around, the first flight that departed Texas landed in Honduras at 7:26 p.m., 45 minutes after the judge's directive to turn the flights around. The second flight arrived at 8:10 p.m. Approximately an hour later at 9 p.m., the Trump administration filed a notice of appeal to challenge Boasberg's temporary restraining order. 2 hours later, both flights departed Honduras for El Salvador by 11:43 p.m. By 12:18 a.m., both flights landed in El Salvador, and sometime overnight, over 230 alleged members of Tren de Aragua were transferred from U.S. custody to El Salvador's terrorism confinement center. DOJ lawyers later argued that they deported some gang members pursuant to the declaration before the judge issued his order. Each flight, though, was in the air at the same time Judge Boasberg ordered the flights be turned around. As questions about the Trump administration's compliance with the order lingered overnight, Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele shared a New York Post story that morning about Boasberg's order, writing, "Oopsie, too late." When asked about the deportations on Sunday night, President Trump defended the move by arguing that the United States is being invaded by Tren de Aragua.
They invaded our country. So this isn't, in that sense, this is war.
During a court hearing on Monday, DOJ lawyers refused to provide any additional information about the deportations.
This administration acted within the confines of the law, again, within the president's constitutional authority and under the authority granted to him under the Alien Enemies Act. We are quite confident in that.
While the Trump administration has insisted that the men are violent criminals, a top ICE official has acknowledged in a sworn filing that many of the men lacked criminal records and were deported on the belief that they might be terrorists. Family members of some of the men have told ABC News that their loved ones who they fear have been deported to El Salvador have never been associated with Tren de Aragua or any other criminal organization.
Angustiado y preocupado es lo que debe estar sintiendo él, como lo debe estar tratando, y pues todo lo que debe estar pasando por su cabeza, porque él nunca en la vida había caído preso, nunca había estado en una prisión. Yo les pido que si no tienen nada, no lo castiguen y no lo dañen psicológicamente y lo envíen a su país donde su familia lo está esperando.